There was a moment no one in that glass tower will ever forget. A billionaire stood in the middle of his company lobby and said something he thought was a joke. "If you can make my daughter smile, I'll marry you." People laughed. Then a poor cleaner walked forward. And 10 minutes later, the little girl who hadn't laughed since her mother died was laughing so hard she couldn't breathe. But what no one knew that day was this. That poor young woman wasn't just changing a child's life. She was about to uncover a secret, a pain, and a sacrifice that would change that powerful man forever. If stories about love, family, and second chances touch your heart, take a moment to subscribe. Now let me tell you how it all began. Ethan Vance built his life on control. At 32, he was one of the youngest CEOs in America, the owner of a billion-dollar company, a man who made decisions that moved markets and crushed competitors. But there was one thing in his life he couldn't fix. His 6-year-old daughter, Lily. 8 months earlier, his wife Sarah had died after a sudden illness. Since then, their big, beautiful mansion had turned into a quiet museum of memories. And Lily had stopped smiling. She spoke when spoken to. She followed instructions. She ate when reminded. But the laughter, the singing, the bright spark she once had, was gone. That morning, Ethan held her small hand inside the executive elevator. "You'll stay with me at the office today," he said, more like a statement than a question. Lily nodded silently. The nanny had called in sick. Important merger contracts were waiting. And for a man like Ethan Vance, work never paused for grief. The elevator doors opened to the main lobby of Vance Industries. Polished marble floors. Glass walls. Employees walking fast, voices low, everything sharp and efficient. Everything powerful. Everything cold. Ethan walked forward with long, confident steps. Lily hurried beside him, her little legs trying to keep up. In his office, he pointed to a chair near the window. "You can color there. I'll be in meetings." "I'll be quiet," she whispered. And she was. For nearly an hour, Ethan signed documents worth millions. When he finally looked up, Lily was still in the exact same position, carefully coloring inside the lines like it was a job she didn't want to mess up. He felt a strange heaviness in his chest. When was the last time she played like a child? Later that morning, he needed to inspect a new security system on another floor. Lily came along, quiet as always. That's when something unusual caught his attention. Near the center of the lobby, a young woman was on her knees, scrubbing a stain from the marble. Just a cleaner. Nothing special. But then a security guard walked by. "Morning, Clara," the man said. The young woman looked up and smiled, a real smile. Warm. Bright. The kind that reached her eyes. "How's your wife doing?" she asked. "Better," he said, surprised. "Thanks for remembering. Tell her I'm rooting for her." It was such a small moment. But the space around her felt different. Lighter. Warmer. Ethan frowned. In a building full of pressure and power, this poor young woman was the only person who seemed genuinely happy. Beside him, Lily tugged his sleeve. "Daddy, can I sit over there?" She pointed to a nearby bench, her eyes fixed on the cleaner. For the first time in months, she looked interested. Ethan helped her sit, but he kept watching. Clara worked while quietly humming. Employees passing by stopped to greet her. Some even lingered just to talk. People were drawn to her. And suddenly, an idea formed in Ethan's mind. A ridiculous idea. An impulsive one. But grief does strange things to people. He stepped into the center of the lobby. Conversations quieted immediately. When the CEO appeared, people paid attention. Clara stood up quickly, nervous, holding her cleaning cloth. "You're new here?" Ethan asked. "Yes, sir. Clara Miller. Started last week." He glanced at Lily. then back at her. "I have a proposal," he said, loud enough for everyone to hear. The lobby went silent. "That's my daughter," he continued. "She hasn't smiled in a long time." He paused. "If you can make her smile, I'll marry you." Gasps spread through the room. A few employees exchanged shocked looks. His assistant turned pale. It was supposed to be a joke. Something dramatic. Something to break the tension. Ethan expected awkward laughter. Maybe confusion. Maybe offense. Instead, Clara simply tilted her head and studied Lily. Then she looked back at him. "Okay," she said calmly. "I accept." Now the silence felt heavier. Ethan blinked. "You're serious?" She smiled. "Why not? She looks like a wonderful kid." Without waiting for permission, Clara walked toward Lily and knelt so their eyes were level. "Hi, Lily," she said gently. "I'm Clara." Lily didn't respond. She just stared, cautious and guarded. Clara reached into her pocket and pulled out a large, colorful button. "Do you know what this is?" she whispered. Lily shook her head slightly. "This is a magic smile button." Lily frowned. "Buttons aren't magic." Clara leaned closer, lowering her voice like she was sharing a secret. "This one is. But it only works for brave girls." Lily leaned forward a little, and for the first time since her mother died, curiosity appeared in her eyes. And that was the moment Ethan realized something was happening. Something he didn't understand. Something he definitely didn't control. And within minutes, his entire world was about to change. Clara placed the colorful button gently against her forehead and closed her eyes. "Let's see if it's working," she whispered dramatically. Lily leaned in, watching carefully. "Oh," Clara said slowly, her voice full of wonder. "I'm seeing something, a story." Lily's fingers tightened around the edge of the bench. "What story?" Clara lowered her voice like she was sharing a secret meant only for Lily. "It's about a princess who lived in a castle made of clouds. She had golden hair, just like yours, and her eyes were bright blue, like the sky." Lily didn't speak, but she didn't look away either. Ethan stood several feet back, arms crossed, telling himself this was pointless. Just another attempt. Another distraction. He had tried therapists, child specialists, expensive trips, new toys. Nothing had worked. And yet, he didn't move. Clara continued. One day, a big, grumpy dragon came and stole all the colors from the princess's kingdom. Everything turned gray. The sky. The flowers. Even the castle. Lily's lips pressed together. "What did the princess do?" she asked quietly. Clara smiled. "Well, everyone expected her to fight the dragon. But she didn't. Because she noticed something." "What?" "The dragon wasn't mean," Clara said softly. "He was lonely. Nobody had ever been kind to him." Lily blinked. So the princess did something brave. Instead of fighting, she sat with him. She talked to him. She showed him how to smile. Clara pressed the button gently against Lily's shoulder. And when the dragon finally smiled, she tapped the button. All the colors came back. For a moment, nothing happened. Employees nearby had stopped pretending to work. Even the security guard stood still. Ethan held his breath without realizing it. Then Lily's lips twitched. Just a little. Her eyes lifted toward Clara's face. "And the dragon?" she asked. Clara made a deep, silly voice. "Thank you, princess," she growled, then crossed her eyes and puffed her cheeks in an exaggerated expression. A small sound escaped Lily. Not quite a laugh. But close. Clara leaned in again, whispering loudly. "Oh no, the button says there's still one color missing." The most important one. What color? Lily asked. The happy color. She tapped the button again and made another ridiculous dragon face. This time, Lily let out a tiny giggle. The sound hit Ethan like a shock to the chest. He hadn't heard that sound in months. Clara didn't stop. She pretended the button was stuck, pressing it again and again, making more dramatic expressions, whispering nonsense instructions to the imaginary dragon. Lily tried to stay serious. She failed. The giggle grew into a laugh. And then suddenly, like a dam breaking, Lily threw her head back and laughed out loud. Clear, bright, free. The sound echoed through the marble lobby. Ethan froze. His heart pounded so hard he could hear it in his ears. That laugh, it was the same one Sarah used to say sounded like wind chimes. Lily grabbed the button, hugging it to her chest, still laughing as Clara made one final dramatic bow. Mission accomplished, Clara said softly. For several seconds, no one spoke. Ethan walked forward slowly, like he was afraid the moment might disappear if he moved too fast. Lily looked up at him, her cheeks pink, her eyes shining. Daddy, the dragon learned manners, she said excitedly. He swallowed hard. That's wonderful, sweetheart. Clara stood, suddenly looking unsure. I hope I didn't overstep, sir. She's a very special little girl. Ethan stared at her. This poor young woman, with worn shoes and a simple uniform, had done in 10 minutes what he hadn't been able to do in 8 months. Thank you, he said quietly. Clara just nodded, as if it wasn't a big deal. I'll be here every day, she told Lily. If you ever need the magic button. Can I see you tomorrow? Lily asked immediately. Of course. Lily beamed. And Ethan felt something shift deep inside his chest. That afternoon, he canceled 2 meetings without explanation. He stayed in the office longer than necessary, but he didn't work. He watched Lily. She colored again, but this time she hummed softly. That night at home, something else happened. For the first time in months, Lily came to the dinner table without being called 3 times. She told the housekeeper about the dragon story. She ate everything on her plate. And before bed, Ethan stopped outside her room. He heard singing. Soft at first, then clearer. It was the same lullaby Sarah used to sing. Ethan leaned against the doorframe, his eyes burning. After 8 months of silence, his daughter was singing again. But instead of relief, a strange uneasiness crept into his chest. Because one question wouldn't leave his mind. Why could a stranger reach his daughter, when he couldn't? The next morning, he woke earlier than usual. Lily was already dressed, waiting in the kitchen with her backpack. I'm coming to the office again, she announced. You have tutoring today, Ethan said. I'll do it later. I want to help Clara. Ethan stared at her. There was energy in her voice. Excitement. Something alive. How are you going to help her? He asked. I can hold the cloths. And I want to tell her another dragon story. He should have said no. Instead, he nodded. At the office, Lily barely waited for the elevator doors to open. When they reached the 20th floor, Clara was organizing her cleaning cart. The moment she saw Lily, her face lit up. Well, look who's back. Lily ran to her like she'd known her for years. Ethan stayed near the reception desk, pretending to check emails. But he watched. And what he saw unsettled him. Lily talked. A lot. About her books. About piano lessons she had stopped taking. About her mother. Clara listened like every word mattered. When Lily mentioned she missed her mom singing to her, Clara asked gently, Do you remember the song? Lily hesitated. Then, quietly, she sang. Ethan stopped breathing. He hadn't heard her sing since the funeral. Clara didn't interrupt. didn't react too strongly. She just listened. When Lily finished, Clara smiled warmly. "Your mom must have loved that voice." Lily nodded, her eyes shining. "Do you think she can hear me?" Clara didn't hesitate. Moms always hear their children, no matter where they are. Lily smiled and began humming again. Ethan turned away, pretending to read the report in his hands. But the words were blurred. Throughout the day, he found reasons to pass that floor again. Every time, the same scene. Lily laughing, talking, helping, alive. And every time, the same thought grew stronger. This wasn't normal. No one connected with a grieving child that quickly. No one gave this much without wanting something in return. By late afternoon, the thought had turned into a decision. Back in his office, Ethan picked up his phone. "James," he said when the line connected. "I need a background check." There was a pause. "On who?" Ethan looked out the window toward the 20th floor. "Her name is Clara Miller," he said quietly. "And I want to know everything." The call ended, but the uneasiness didn't. Ethan set his phone down and leaned back in his chair, staring at the ceiling. He told himself it was just caution. That was how he survived in business. People were rarely what they seemed. Kindness often came with a price. Loyalty usually hid an agenda. And Clara Miller was too good, too natural, too warm, too effortless with Lily. No one gave that much without wanting something. At least, that's what experience had taught him. Still, as the afternoon went on, he found himself walking past the 20th floor again. Lily was sitting on the floor beside Clara's cart, folding sheets of scrap paper. "Look," Lily said proudly. "It's a flower." Clara took it like it was something valuable. "That's beautiful. You know what? Paper flowers last forever. Real ones fade, but these stay." Lily smiled. "Then I'll make a lot of them." Ethan stood there longer than he meant to. There was nothing forced about Clara. No exaggerated praise. No fake excitement. She treated Lily like she mattered, like her thoughts were important. That night at home, the changes continued. Lily finished her dinner without being reminded. She told the housekeeper about the paper flowers. She even laughed when she spilled a little juice and quickly cleaned it herself. Later, as Ethan passed her room, he heard her talking. Not to a toy. Not to herself. She was telling the dragon story again, this time adding her own details. Ethan stood quietly in the hallway, listening. For 8 months, the house had been heavy with silence. Now there was life in it again. And somehow, that made him uncomfortable. Because the life didn't come from him. The next morning, Lily was already dressed again. "I'm going with you," she said. "You've gone 3 days in a row," Ethan replied. "I don't bother anyone." That part was true. "And Clara said today she'll teach me how to make a swan." Ethan hesitated. This attachment was growing fast. Too fast. But when Lily looked at him, there was something in her eyes he hadn't seen since Sarah died. Hope. He nodded. At the office, Lily ran ahead the moment the elevator opened. Clara was organizing supplies, and when she saw Lily, her face lit up the way it always did. "Well, good morning, Miss Assistant." "I brought colored paper," Lily said proudly. "Then today we're making the most elegant swans this building has ever seen." Ethan stayed nearby again, pretending to review documents. But what he really watched was Clara. She never rushed Lily. Never talked down to her. When Lily struggled with a fold, Clara didn't fix it. She guided her hands. "See? You did that," she said softly. Around noon, Lily began talking about her mother again. This time, there were no tears. She used to sing every night, Lily said. Clara paused, then answered gently, "That means you carry her voice inside you." Lily nodded. And then, quietly, she started humming. Ethan looked down at the report in his hands, but the words blurred. He had spent thousands on specialists trying to help Lily talk about Sarah. And here was a woman earning barely enough to pay rent, helping his daughter heal with nothing but patience and kindness. That evening, his phone rang. "Got your report," James said. Ethan closed his office door. "Go ahead." Clara Miller, 28. Lives alone in a small apartment. No car. No savings. She's been working cleaning jobs for about 3 years. Before that, retail, waitressing, receptionist work. Ethan listened quietly. "Financial situation's rough," James continued. "Behind on rent a couple times. Credit card debt. Medical payments too, but I couldn't trace exactly what for." "Medical." Ethan frowned. "Anything suspicious?" There was a pause. "Actually, no. If anything, it's the opposite." "What do you mean?" "I talked to a few people in her building. She helps everyone. Watches kids for free. Buys groceries for an elderly neighbor. Even loaned money once, and she barely has any herself." That didn't make sense. If she's struggling, why is she giving money away? "Good question," James said. "Her place is basic. Almost empty. No luxury spending. Whatever money she has, it's going somewhere important." Ethan ended the call and sat in silence. The report didn't confirm his suspicion. It made it worse. Because now there was no obvious motive. No manipulation. No hidden plan. Just a poor woman who worked hard, and still chose to help others. That afternoon, when he went to get Lily, he found her sitting on the floor beside Clara again. They were surrounded by paper swans. "Daddy, look," Lily said. "We're making a lake." Clara smiled. "Every swan needs a home." Ethan glanced at her. "Where did you learn all this?" he asked. Clara shrugged lightly. "Internet videos. When you can't afford classes, you learn how to teach underskirt topics yourself." The answer was simple, but something in it stayed with him. Later that night, as Lily talked non-stop in the car about Clara's ideas, Ethan found himself asking a question he hadn't expected. "What makes her so special?" Lily thought for a moment. "She looks at me like I matter." The words hit him harder than any accusation. That night, Ethan couldn't sleep. He walked through the quiet halls of his large house. Everything was expensive, perfect, and empty. The next morning, the thought came to him suddenly. At first, it sounded unreasonable. Then it started to feel practical. By afternoon, the idea was no longer just a thought. When he found Clara putting away her cleaning supplies, he spoke without hesitation. "Clara, I'd like to talk to you for a moment." She looked surprised but nodded. They stepped a few feet away from Lily. "I want to make you an offer," Ethan said. Clara blinked. "An offer? I want you to come live with us." For a moment, she just stared at him. "I'm sorry," she said quietly. "I don't understand. My house is large. Lily is clearly happier when you're around. And I know your financial situation isn't easy." Color rose in her face. "Mr. Vance, I didn't come here looking for charity." "This isn't charity," he said firmly. "It's practical." She was silent, trying to process. "People will talk," she said finally. "I don't care what people think." She looked toward Lily, who was carefully arranging paper swans on the floor. "Why are you really doing this?" Clara asked softly. Ethan hesitated. Then he answered honestly. "Because my daughter is coming back to life." Clara looked at Lily again, and for a long moment she didn't speak. Finally, she turned back to him. "I need to think about it," she said. Then she added quietly, "Because if I say yes, it will change everything." Clara didn't answer right away. Her eyes stayed on Lily, who was still sitting on the floor, carefully adjusting the paper swans as if their positions mattered deeply. For a long moment, Clara said nothing. Ethan didn't rush her. He had made the offer impulsively, but now that it was out in the open, he realized how serious it sounded. A wealthy CEO asking a struggling employee to move into his home. The distance between their worlds couldn't have been wider. Finally, Clara spoke, her voice quiet. "I didn't come here looking for a better life, Mr. Vance. I know. I didn't try to get close to Lily for any reason except she needed someone to sit with her." "I know that too." She turned toward him then, studying his face, as if trying to understand what kind of man he really was. "You have to understand something," she said. "Where I come from, when someone with money offers you something big, there's usually a condition attached." "There isn't," Ethan replied. Clara held his gaze. "And if one day you decide this isn't working? If Lily gets better and you don't need me anymore? Then we talk about it," he said. "No contracts. No obligations. Just honesty." She breathed out slowly. "I don't want Lily to get hurt again," Clara said softly. "She's already lost too much." "So have I," Ethan admitted. That was the first moment something shifted between them. Not employer and employee. Not rich and poor. Just two people standing on the same side of the same loss. Clara nodded once. "I'll do it," she said. Ethan blinked. "You're sure?" "I'm not doing this for comfort. And I'm not doing it for money. I'm doing it because that little girl, she needs stability. If I move in, it has to be real. Not temporary. Not something that disappears overnight." "It's real," Ethan said quietly. Clara looked back at Lily. Then she smiled. "When would you like me to move?" "This weekend." Lily looked up just then, as if she sensed something important had happened. "What are you talking about?" she asked. Ethan crouched beside her. "How would you feel if Clara came to live with us?" For a second, Lily didn't react. Then her eyes widened. "Really? If she wants to?" Lily jumped to her feet and threw her arms around Clara so hard the woman nearly lost her balance. "You're coming home with us?" Lily asked, her voice full of excitement. Clara laughed softly. "If your dad doesn't change his mind." "He won't," Lily said quickly, turning to Ethan. "Right." Ethan smiled. "I won't." That weekend, Ethan's driver picked Clara up from her apartment. There wasn't much to bring. 2 suitcases, a small box of books, and a worn photo frame she carried carefully on her lap during the ride. When the car pulled up to the mansion, Clara stepped out slowly. For a moment, she just stood there. The house was enormous. 3 stories, wide glass windows, manicured gardens stretching out behind it. Beautiful. And quiet. Ethan watched her reaction carefully. "It's a big place," he said. "It's a beautiful place," Clara replied politely. But there was something thoughtful in her expression. Not impressed. Not excited. Just observant. Lily ran out the front door before anyone could say anything else. "You're here!" she shouted, grabbing Clara's hand. "Come on, I'll show you everything." Clara allowed herself to be pulled inside. The room Ethan had prepared for her was large, with a view of the garden and furniture far nicer than anything she'd ever owned. "It's too much," she said quietly. "It's a guest room," Ethan replied. "Use whatever you need. Change whatever you want." She ran her hand over the windowsill, then nodded. Thank you. That evening, dinner felt different. Lily talked non-stop. She showed Clara her books, her drawings, the piano she hadn't touched in months. I used to play every day, Lily said, her voice dropping a little. Clara didn't push. Whenever you're ready, she said gently. Music waits. It doesn't go anywhere. During the meal, Clara asked simple questions about the house routine, Lily's schedule, the staff's names. She didn't act like a guest. She acted like someone trying to belong. The next morning, Ethan came downstairs and stopped halfway. Soft music was playing in the background. The windows were open. Fresh air moved through the house. And on the dining table, there was a small vase of flowers. Clara stood in the kitchen with the housekeeper, helping prepare breakfast. When she saw him, she hesitated. I hope the music is okay. I can turn it off. No, Ethan said quietly. It's nice. Lily came running down moments later. Clara, look. I slept all night. That's a big win, Clara said, smiling. Throughout the day, small changes appeared. Windows opened. Fresh flowers placed in quiet corners. The house didn't feel different because of decoration. It felt different because of energy. That night, Ethan passed Lily's room and heard Clara inside. She was sitting on the edge of the bed, telling a story in a low, gentle voice. And the little star stayed in the sky, she said, watching over the girl while she slept. Do you think Mommy can see the star too? Lily asked sleepily. I think your mom sees every good thing you do, Clara answered. And every time you smile, she smiles too. There was silence. Then Lily whispered, Good night, Clara. Good night, sweetheart. Clara stepped into the hallway and nearly ran into Ethan. Oh, I'm sorry, she said quietly. He shook his head. No. I should be thanking you. For what? Ethan glanced back at the half-open door. Lily was already asleep. Peaceful. For the first time in months. For bringing her back, he said. Clara didn't answer right away. She just gave him a small, tired smile. But as she walked away down the hallway, Ethan noticed something he hadn't seen before. For the first time, Clara looked exhausted. And for a moment, he wondered what kind of weight she was carrying behind that smile. Over the next 2 weeks, the house changed in ways no renovation ever could. The laughter came first. At different times of the day, Ethan would hear it echo down the hallway, Lily's voice, bright and alive, followed by Clara's softer laugh. Then came the small things. The smell of fresh coffee in the morning. Warm light from the kitchen before sunrise. Music drifting through the living room in the evenings. Nothing expensive. Nothing dramatic. Just life. And Lily. Lily was different. She ran through the house instead of walking quietly. She talked during meals. She brought her drawings to show Ethan the moment he walked through the door. One evening, he came home earlier than usual and found Lily and Clara sitting on the living room floor surrounded by puzzle pieces. It was a castle scene, thousands of tiny pieces spread across the rug. Hi, Daddy, Lily said without looking up. We're building a kingdom. That looks complicated, Ethan replied. Clara smiled. She's very patient. Better than I am. Lily held up a piece. You want to help? Ethan hesitated. The last time he had sat on the floor to play anything, he couldn't remember. But the hopeful look on Lily's face made the decision for him. Where do I sit? He asked. Lily scooted over and patted the rug beside her. Edges are your job. They're easier. He lowered himself carefully onto the floor, feeling strangely out of place in his suit. At first, it felt awkward. Then something unexpected happened. His phone buzzed once on the table. He ignored it. Another message came. He ignored that too. For the first time in years, his attention stayed in one place. Piece by piece, the castle began to take shape. "That one fits," Lily said excitedly when he placed a corner section. Clara watched quietly, a soft smile on her face. "You're good at this," she told him. "I negotiate billion-dollar deals," he said. "This might be the most relaxing thing I've done all year." More than an hour passed before he noticed. During dinner that night, Lily talked non-stop about their progress. "Daddy found the tower corner," she told Clara proudly. Ethan realized something strange. He hadn't thought about work once. Later, when Lily went upstairs, Clara stayed behind, organizing the puzzle pieces into neat color groups. "You don't have to do that," Ethan said. "It'll make it easier tomorrow." They worked side by side in comfortable silence. After a moment, Ethan spoke. "I didn't realize how much I was missing." Clara glanced at him. "Missing what?" "Her childhood," he admitted. "After Sarah died, I threw myself into work. It was easier than being in that quiet house." Clara nodded slowly. "Grief makes people hide in different ways." "I thought providing was enough," he said. "But I wasn't really there." Clara placed a piece into the box. "It's never too late to come back." Her words stayed with him. The next morning, Ethan came downstairs to find Lily already sitting at the puzzle table. She had sorted pieces into piles. "I saved the garden for us," she said. "For us?" he asked. She nodded seriously. "We're a team now." At the office that day, Ethan did something unusual. He left early. 4 years, leaving before 8 in the evening had been unthinkable. Now he found himself driving home while the sun was still up. When he walked in, Lily ran to him. "Game night," she announced. On the dining table, Clara had set up a board game. "I read an interview where you said you liked architecture," she explained. "This one is about building cities." Ethan raised an eyebrow. "You did your homework." She smiled lightly. "I pay attention." The game lasted nearly 2 hours. Lily planned tiny neighborhoods. Ethan calculated resources. Clara made sure the competition stayed friendly. At one point, Lily looked up and said, "Daddy, you're smiling again." He hadn't even noticed. That night, as he stood outside Lily's door after putting her to bed, he realized something else. For the first time since Sarah died, the house didn't feel empty. Saturday came, and instead of going to the golf course like he usually did, Ethan stayed home. Clara suggested a picnic in the garden. At first, he hesitated. Work emails were waiting. Calls needed to be returned. Then he looked outside. Lily was already running barefoot across the grass, chasing butterflies. He closed his laptop. Under the shade of an old oak tree, they spread a blanket. Simple sandwiches. Juice boxes. Fresh fruit. Nothing fancy. After lunch, Lily threw a ball toward him. Catch. It hit his hands before he had time to think. Soon they were playing, tossing the ball back and forth. Then running. Then laughing. At one point, Lily tripped and fell onto the grass. Ethan rushed forward. "Are you okay?" Instead of crying, she burst into laughter. "The grass tickles," she said, rolling onto her back. Clara laughed too and dropped down beside her. For a moment, Ethan just stood there. Then, without thinking, he lay down next to them. The three of them stared up at the sky. "That cloud looks like a dragon," Lily said. "I see a castle," Clara added. Ethan squinted. "That one looks like an ice cream cone." Lily clapped. "Yes, with a cherry." They stayed there almost an hour, pointing at clouds and talking about nothing important. And somehow, it felt like everything important. As the sun began to set, Lily sat up suddenly. "Daddy, Yes. She looked at him with bright, serious eyes. Today was the best day of my life. The words hit him harder than any business loss or victory ever had. He couldn't speak for a moment. Then he pulled her into a hug. It was one of mine too, he said quietly. Over Lily's shoulder, his eyes met Clara's. She was watching them with a look he couldn't quite name. Pride. Relief. Something deeper. That night, after Lily fell asleep, Ethan stood alone on the balcony overlooking the garden. He could still hear her laughter in his mind. Best day of her life. 4 years he had measured success in numbers. Growth. Profit. Expansion. But none of it had ever felt like this. None of it had ever felt like enough. Behind him, he heard soft footsteps. Clara stepped onto the balcony. I wanted to make sure Lily settled in, she said quietly. She did, Ethan replied. They stood side by side for a moment. Then Clara's phone rang. She glanced at the screen, and the color slowly drained from her face. She answered immediately. Hello. Her voice was steady at first. Then it changed. What do you mean, when did this happen? Ethan turned toward her. Clara listened for a few seconds. Her hand began to shake. No. I don't have that kind of money right now, she whispered. Silence. Then her voice broke. I'll figure something out. I promise. She ended the call. For a moment, she just stood there. Then she sank into the balcony chair and covered her face. And for the first time since she had come into their lives, Clara started to cry. Ethan didn't speak right away. He had never seen Clara like this. The woman who always carried warmth, patience, and quiet strength now sat curled into herself, her shoulders shaking as she tried to hold back the sound of her sobs. For a moment, he wasn't sure if he should step forward or give her privacy. But something in the way she looked, small, overwhelmed, alone, made the decision for him. Clara, he said gently. She quickly wiped her face, embarrassed. I'm sorry. I didn't mean for you to see that. You don't have to apologize, he replied. What happened? She shook her head. It's nothing. I'll figure it out. That didn't sound like nothing. There was a long silence. Clara stared at the phone in her hands as if it carried the weight of everything she had been holding inside for years. Then she spoke, her voice barely above a whisper. It's my mom. Ethan sat down in the chair across from her. Is she sick? Clara nodded. She's been sick for 2 years. A rare condition. It affects her muscles, her breathing, everything. Her fingers tightened around the phone. I've been paying for her treatment. Every test, every medication, every hospital stay. Ethan felt something shift in his chest. The unexplained debt. The second jobs. The empty apartment. It all made sense now. How serious is it? He asked quietly. Clara swallowed. The doctors say she needs surgery. Soon. Without it, her voice broke. She won't make it. Silence filled the balcony. How much? Ethan asked. Clara shook her head immediately. No. I'm not asking you for anything. I didn't say you were. I asked how much. She hesitated. Then, very quietly, she said, 15,000. Just for the surgery. Not counting recovery. To Ethan, it was an amount he spent without thinking. To Clara, it sounded like a mountain she had no way to climb. I've been sending everything I earn, she continued. That's why I work so much. That's why I never stay in one job long if there's something that pays a little more. Her eyes filled again. I thought I could manage. I thought if I just kept working harder, I'd get there. She laughed softly, but there was no humor in it. But today they told me the surgery has to happen this week. Ethan leaned forward. Where is she? Chicago. She lives alone there. You need to go. I can't afford the surgery and the trip, Clara admitted. But I have to go. She's scared. And she's all I have. For a moment, Ethan didn't speak. Then he said simply, I'll take care of it. Clara looked up immediately. No. Yes. I can't accept that, she said firmly. You've already done more than enough for me. You're not accepting it for yourself, he said. You're accepting it for your mother. She shook her head again. That's too much money. Clara, he said quietly, you gave my daughter her life back. Her eyes filled with tears. That's different. It isn't, he replied. You didn't ask for anything in return. You didn't expect anything. You just showed up every day and cared. She looked down, her voice trembling. I don't want to owe you something I can never repay. Then don't think of it as a loan. She looked up slowly. Think of it as someone helping family. The word hung in the air between them. Family. Clara covered her mouth as tears spilled over again. I need to be there for the surgery, she whispered. It's tomorrow morning. Ethan stood. I'll have a ticket booked tonight. You don't have to do this. I know, he said. I want to. There was another silence. Then Clara asked quietly, What if she doesn't recover well? Then we deal with that when the time comes. She nodded, but worry stayed in her eyes. How long will you be gone? He asked. I don't know. Maybe a week. Maybe longer. The words landed heavier than either of them expected. A week. The house without her. Lily without her. Ethan suddenly realized how quickly her presence had become part of their lives. From inside the house, the front door opened. Lily's voice echoed down the hallway. I'm home. Clara stood quickly, wiping her face. But Lily ran into the living room before she could compose herself. The moment she saw Clara's red eyes, she stopped. What happened? Clara knelt down in front of her. Sweetheart, I need to take a trip. Lily's face tightened. Where? My mom is very sick. I need to go take care of her. For how long? I'm not sure. Maybe a week. Lily's eyes filled immediately. A week? Clara opened her arms. Lily ran into them and held on tightly. You're coming back, right? She asked in a small voice. Clara hesitated. I'm going to try my best. That hesitation was enough. Lily started crying. I don't want you to go, she said, her voice breaking. I already lost my mom. I don't want to lose you too. Clara held her close, tears falling into Lily's hair. I'm not leaving forever, she whispered. I promise I'll do everything I can to come back. Ethan stood nearby, watching the scene with a heaviness he couldn't ignore. Because for the first time, the thought crossed his mind. What if she didn't come back? That night, Clara packed quietly. Lily sat on the bed, watching every movement like time was running out. Can I keep the magic button? Lily asked. Clara smiled and placed it in her hand. That button works even when I'm not here. And if I miss you? Then press it, Clara said softly. And remember that I'm thinking about you too. At the airport, Lily didn't want to let go. Clara knelt one last time. I'll call every day. Okay. Okay, Lily whispered. As Clara walked toward the gate, she turned back once. Ethan met her eyes. There was gratitude there. And fear. Then she disappeared into the crowd. That night, the house was quiet again. Too quiet. The next morning, Lily came down for breakfast and sat silently at the table. She didn't touch her food. At the office, Ethan tried to focus on work. But around noon, his phone buzzed. A message from Clara. Surgery went well. She's stable. Thank you for everything. He read it twice. Relief came first. Then another feeling followed. There was no mention of when she would come back. That evening, he found Lily sitting in the living room, staring at the unfinished puzzle. "Want to work on it?" he asked. She shook her head. "It's not the same without Clara." He sat beside her anyway. They tried for a few minutes. But the room felt heavy. The laughter was gone. The energy was gone. On the third day, the flowers in the living room began to wilt. No one had thought to replace them. That night, Lily couldn't sleep. "Daddy," she whispered when he came to check on her. "Yes. Do you think she's really coming back?" Ethan opened his mouth. But for the first time since Clara left, he realized he didn't know the answer. Ethan sat on the edge of Lily's bed longer than usual that night. She had finally fallen asleep, but her small hand was still wrapped tightly around the magic button, like it was the only thing holding her world together. He gently brushed a strand of hair from her forehead. "I'll bring her back," he whispered, though he wasn't sure if he was promising Lily or himself. The next morning, the house felt even quieter. Lily barely spoke at breakfast. She went to school without her usual questions, without her stories, without the spark that had slowly come back to life over the past weeks. At the office, Ethan tried to work, but numbers and contracts meant nothing. Around noon, he checked his phone again. No new message. By the fourth day, the change in Lily was impossible to ignore. She stopped humming. She stopped drawing. That evening, he found her sitting on the floor beside the unfinished puzzle, holding one piece but not moving. "Sweetheart," he said gently, "we can finish it together." She shook her head. "It was our thing." The word "our" stayed in the air. That night, after Lily went to bed, Ethan walked through the house slowly. The music was gone. The flowers were gone. The warmth Clara had brought with her felt like it had left with her too. And for the first time, he admitted something to himself. He didn't just miss what Clara had done for Lily. He missed her. The way she filled quiet spaces. The way she saw people. The way she made everything feel human again. The next morning, he made a decision. He picked up his phone and called her. Clara answered after the second ring. Her voice sounded tired. "Hi. How is your mother?" he asked. "She's stable. The surgery went well, but the recovery is going to take months. Physical therapy, medication. She'll need constant care." There was a pause. "And you?" he asked quietly. "I'm staying here for now," she admitted. "She can't manage alone." The words hit him harder than he expected. Staying. For now. Which could mean weeks, months, or forever. "Clara," he said slowly, "I want to make another offer." There was hesitation in her voice. "Mr. Vance, you've already done so much. Bring your mother here." Silence. "I'm serious," he continued. "There's room. I can arrange medical care, therapy, whatever she needs. You don't have to carry this alone." "That's too much," she whispered. "It's not too much," he said gently. "You carried my daughter back from a place I couldn't reach. Let me carry some of this for you." Another long silence. Then her voice broke. "I don't know how to repay you." "You already did," he said. "But this isn't about repayment." "What is it about?" Ethan looked out the office window, thinking of Lily's quiet face. "It's about family," he said. 2 days later, Ethan stood at the airport with Lily. She was bouncing on her feet, holding the magic button in one hand. "Are you sure it's their flight?" she asked for the 10th time. "I'm sure." When the passengers finally began to come through the gate, Lily spotted her first. "Clara!" She ran before Ethan could stop her. Clara dropped her bag and knelt just in time to catch Lily as she threw herself into her arms. They held each other tightly, neither wanting to let go. "I missed you," Lily whispered. "I missed you more," Clara said, her voice thick with emotion. Ethan walked closer then and noticed the woman standing beside Clara. Older, frail, leaning slightly on a cane. Her eyes held the same kindness Clara carried, but also a lifetime of struggle. "This is my mom," Clara said softly. "Her name is Rose." Ethan extended his hand. "Welcome home, Rose." On the drive back, Lily talked non-stop, telling Clara everything that had happened, every small detail she had been saving. Rose listened quietly, watching her daughter and the little girl beside her with something close to wonder. When they arrived at the house, Rose stopped in the doorway. "This place, it's beautiful," she said. Clara glanced at Ethan. "It feels like a home," she corrected gently. The weeks that followed brought slow healing. Rose began therapy. Lily's laughter returned. The flowers came back to the tables. The music returned to the mornings. And something else began to grow too. One evening, after Lily and Rose had gone to bed, Ethan found Clara in the kitchen, placing fresh flowers in a vase. "You didn't have to stay," he said quietly. Clara looked at him. "I wanted to." He took a step closer. "That day in the lobby, when I made that stupid promise, I thought it was a joke." Clara smiled softly. "I remember. But you didn't just make my daughter smile," he continued. "You changed her life. And you changed mine," she said. He shook his head. "No. You did something bigger than that." He hesitated, then spoke the words he had been carrying. "You didn't just bring Lily back to life. You brought all of us back to life." Tears filled Clara's eyes. "I was just doing what anyone would do." "No," Ethan said quietly. "You were doing what a family does." He took her hand. "That promise I made. I want to ask you again. Not as a joke. Not as a deal." Her breath caught. "Clara, will you marry me?" She stared at him, overwhelmed. "Are you sure?" she whispered. "I don't come with wealth. I come with problems. With responsibilities." Ethan smiled. "You came with love." And that was the only thing this house was missing. Tears slipped down her cheeks as she nodded. Yes. The wedding was small. Simple. Just family. And when Lily stood between them, holding both their hands, she whispered something that stayed with Ethan forever. "Now our family is complete." Because in the end, the richest man in the room wasn't the one with the biggest company or the biggest house. It was the one who learned that love, kindness, and sacrifice are worth more than anything money could ever buy. And sometimes, the greatest miracle isn't making a child smile. It's learning that the heart grows strongest when it chooses people over pride. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to subscribe, and tell me in the comments which country or region you're watching from.